The Final Manuscript by Claude Jones. Chapter 1. Stormy Arrival. The mountain road twisted like a serpent, devouring the last of the daylight in its endless hunger. Thick snow blanketed the windshield of Jack's aging SUV, each flake blurring the distinction between road and void. The wipers groaned, smeared more than they cleared, and even the high beams offered little more than ghost light in the blizzard's chaos. "This is starting to look like a scene from one of her novels," Jack muttered, jaw tight, fingers white-knuckled around the wheel. "Relax, we'll be there soon," Marcus replied, ever the optimist in moments that demanded realism. His eyes flicked between his GPS and the snow-blind road. "Tamsin's retreat is supposed to be isolated. That's the point, right? I wonder what she's working on this time," Lena said from the back seat, voice low, thoughtful. "Her books always mess with my head. I still can't sleep if I think about that twist in the quiet murders." "Well, let's hope she's not scripting a real-life plot twist for us," Marcus added, laughing too loudly. It echoed inside the vehicle, brittle and empty. The trees grew thicker as they climbed, black spines against the snowy shroud. Just beyond the bend, the mansion loomed, 3 stories of Victorian menace wrapped in frost, surrounded by ancient woods that whispered things too faint to catch. Tamsin Blackwell's writing retreat had always drawn those desperate for silence, story, and shadow. But tonight it was hungry. As the car crunched to a stop in the courtyard, Lena pressed her face to the window. "God, it looks like something out of a haunted house story." Jack killed the engine. "It's worse. It looks like something she'd write." They stepped into the blizzard, boots breaking untouched snow. The wind bit hard, and for a moment no one spoke, staring at the windows. All of them were dark. "Shouldn't someone be waiting?" Lena asked. Marcus didn't answer. He grabbed his bag and started up the stairs. "Maybe the power's out." The front door creaked open without resistance. A gust of wind moaned through the hall, pushing stale air toward them like breath from something sleeping too long. Inside, the house was warmer, but only just. The heavy silence pressed close. Claudia appeared from the far room, arms wide, face flushed with relief. "You made it. I'm so glad to see all of you. Another year, another chance to create magic," she said. But her eyes flicked toward the stairs. She was hiding something. "And maybe solve a mystery or two," Jack quipped, dropping his bag with a thud. But no one laughed. The fire in the main room burned low, casting long shadows over the walls. The walls watched. None of them noticed the smear of something dark at the top of the staircase. Not yet. Chapter 2. The Menagerie. The mansion's main hall smelled of cedar smoke and something older, like aged velvet or antique paper left too long in the dark. As the group removed their coats, their breath still visible in the frigid air, Lena paused, transfixed by the looming shadows beyond the firelight. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Is that a bear?" The flickering firelight played cruel games with the room's decor. Stuffed animals lined the walls, more than before, more than anyone remembered from previous years. An owl with empty amber eyes perched on a false branch, a fox mid-snarl behind glass, and towering above them, a full-grown grizzly, its black mouth frozen in a silent roar, teeth gleaming like weapons. "Christ," Jack muttered, stepping back. "I didn't expect taxidermy hell." Claudia circled the bear warily, the polished wooden floor creaking beneath her boots. "Tamsin always loved dramatic imagery," she said, voice tight. "But this is performative. Theatric, almost like it's meant to unsettle us." Marcus approached a glass cabinet full of mounted butterflies, each pinned perfectly, their colors dulled with time. "She's trying to say something. It's not just decor, it's a message." Lena reached up toward a porcelain mask hanging by the fireplace. Its painted smile was cracked. "She's setting a mood, but why? And where the hell is she?" That question pulled the temperature down by degrees. No one answered. "She said she'd be here before us," Claudia murmured, now visibly tense. "She always waits in the library with drinks and a twisted anecdote." Marcus checked his phone. No signal, no Wi-Fi, just like she wanted. "Isolation breeds ideas," she said, "but now it just feels wrong." "Maybe she's in her room," Jack offered. "Caught up in some intense chapter. She used to vanish like that when writing, whole weekends locked in." "But her car's not out front," Lena added, "and there's no tire tracks." The silence after that was heavier than before, like the taxidermy had sucked the air from the room. "Okay," Claudia said slowly. "Library first, then her room. We'll find her." They moved together, 6 feet between each of them, the creaking floors beneath their boots, the only sounds besides the wind clawing at the shutters. The deeper into the house they walked, the more oppressive it felt. Every corridor choked with shadow, every portrait distorted by flickering firelight. In the hallway, a wall of framed author headshots stared down at them. Many were black and white, and all had been guests at the retreat over the years. But now, someone had drawn red slashes through several of the faces. "Was this here last year?" Lena asked, stopping mid-step. No one responded. It was as if the house itself had decided that this visit would not be like the others, that this time it had a story to tell, and they were already inside it. Chapter 3. The Discovery. The hallway leading to Tamsin Blackwell's private suite felt colder than the rest of the house. The sconces were dimmer, flickering with the kind of unreliable yellow light that made shadows move even when no one did. Jack stood before the carved oak door. His hand hovered over the antique brass handle. "Ready?" Lena nodded, crossing her arms to still a chill that came from within. Claudia clenched her jaw. Marcus exhaled slowly. No one spoke. The door swung open with a moan, the hinges protesting like an old man disturbed from sleep. "Oh, fuck," Lena whispered. Tamsin's room had always been a pristine sanctuary, shelves arranged alphabetically, papers clipped and stacked with ruthless precision, candles always snuffed. Now it was chaos incarnate. The floor was a hurricane of paper, drafts torn and stomped, ink-streaked, crumpled. A shattered wine glass glittered under the radiator. The desk chair was overturned. And above it all, the bed sheets tangled like something, or someone, had fought. Claudia stepped inside and bent low, her fingers trembling as they brushed a single torn page. "This is her manuscript," she said. "This was it, the one she wouldn't even let her agent read." "Shit," Marcus muttered. "What the hell happened in here?" Claudia ducked low beside the bed and reached beneath it. Her hand paused, then came back holding something small, cold, and gleaming. A flash drive, silver casing, no label, no logo. "Something tells me this is the backup," Claudia said, "or the real story." Jack stayed near the doorway, arms crossed. Why would she shred her manuscript but keep a digital copy? Maybe she changed her mind. Maybe she didn't, Lena said, her voice hollow. Either way, this room, it doesn't look like she left voluntarily. She crossed to the desk. A single coffee mug sat near the edge, its contents long cold, with lipstick smudged along the rim, deep burgundy, the color Tamsin always wore. There were no signs of blood, no footprints, just destruction. "We need to see what's on that drive," Marcus said, already pulling his laptop from his satchel. "This is more than just writer's block." Claudia nodded. "And we need to tell someone, the police, anyone." But no one moved. The implication hung in the air like smoke. If they looked, if they opened the drive, they couldn't pretend it was fiction anymore. This wasn't a plot twist in one of Tamsin's novels. This was something darker, something real. Lena turned to Marcus. "Let's do it." They gathered in the lounge, the fireplace now barely glowing. Shadows clung to the corners like eavesdroppers. Marcus plugged in the drive, and the laptop screen pulsed to life. Dozens of folders, no names, just timestamps. The most recent one, dated 2 days ago, was labeled simply Final. Marcus opened it. Lena's breath hitched. Claudia swore under hers. There at the top of the screen was a photograph, grainy, poorly lit, but unmistakable. A human hand, pale, bloodied, reaching out from darkness. Fingers curled like it had died clawing at something unseen. No one spoke. No one blinked. "Is this fiction?" Lena asked. Jack swallowed. "Not unless she's directing snuff films now." Something primal shifted in the room. The house groaned again, and the wind picked up outside, shrieking like it knew what they'd just seen. They weren't guests anymore, they were characters, and someone was rewriting the ending. Chapter 4. Disturbing evidence. The silence in the lounge was oppressive. The only sound was the soft hum of Marcus's laptop as the screen stared back at them, displaying the image no one wanted to believe. That bloodied hand. "That's not a prop," Lena murmured. "I've seen fake gore. That's real." Claudia stepped back from the table, arms wrapped around her chest. Why would she have this? What was she working on? "Maybe it's a story concept," Jack said too quickly. "Writers collect morbid references. I've got bookmarks on strangulation bruises. Doesn't mean I've murdered anyone." "This isn't research," Lena shot back. "This is a threat, or a message, or a confession." Marcus clicked through more folders. The cursor hovered, uncertain, over file names like voice.wave, corridor.jpg, and one final folder named Gideon. Gideon, he echoed. Who the hell is that? Wait, don't open it yet, Claudia said, eyes narrowing. Check the other photos first, the ones before the hand. Click. The next image was worse. It showed a close-up of what looked like Tamsin's writing desk. Only the frame was off-kilter, like the person taking it had dropped the camera. In the corner of the image, barely visible, was a figure, just a silhouette. Wearing a hat? Do you see that? Lena asked, pointing. In the background? That's someone, Marcus said, and not Tamsin. Claudia leaned in. A fedora? I mean, who wears a fedora anymore? Jack said, but he didn't laugh. No one did. Where is she? Lena snapped, voice cracking. Where the fuck is she? The room fell quiet again. The fire behind them had dimmed to embers. Snow scratched against the windows like fingernails. We need to tell someone, Marcus said, voice gravelly. Police, FBI, something. This is something real. Claudia grabbed her phone, already dialing. If they think we're wasting their time, fine. But I'm not sitting on this. If something happened to her, if she's in danger, we have to act. They huddled around Claudia as she waited for the call to connect. Her hand shook slightly, but her voice was steady when the dispatcher answered. Yes, we're at Blackwell Retreat on Mount Breen. There's been a possible incident, a disappearance, and disturbing materials left behind. The others didn't speak. They listened to the ticking of the wall clock, to the howl of wind under the door. They're dispatching a snow unit, Claudia said, hanging up. It could take hours in this weather. No one moved. We can't just sit here, Marcus said. Let's secure the drive and the manuscript pieces. Lena bent to gather the shredded pages of Tamsin's final story. Her hands moved slowly, reverently, like she was touching skin, not paper. I don't think she meant for this to be found, she whispered. Not yet. Maybe never. The laptop screen dimmed into standby, leaving a faint reflection of them all, ghostly figures hunched together in a house where fiction had begun to rot into truth. Chapter 5. Under investigation. The knock on the door came just after midnight. 3 slow, deliberate raps that echoed through the mansion like a judge passing sentence. That's them, Marcus muttered, standing quickly. The sound of boots on the porch followed, heavy, crunching against the ice-encrusted timber. Claudia moved to the door, flanked by Jack and Lena. She opened it slowly, and the wind roared in like a thing unleashed. Detective Harris, the man said, flashing a badge. His eyes scanned the room behind her. State Police. We're here about the missing woman, Tin Blackwell. Come in, Claudia said, stepping aside. Her fingers trembled. Not from cold. 3 officers entered behind Harris, black boots dripping slush onto the hardwood floor. They carried gear bags, radios, thick notepads. We'll begin with interviews, Harris said, and we need access to the laptop you mentioned, also any physical material related to the manuscript. I've got the flash drive, Lena said, clutching it protectively. I've got the flash drive, Lena said, clutching it protectively. We'll need to examine it immediately, Harris replied, nodding to one of the officers, who began setting up a forensics laptop on the dining table. You'll be careful with it? Claudia asked. There are files that might be personal, unfinished, creative work. We'll handle it like evidence, Harris said flatly, because that's what it is. With that, the writing retreat became a crime scene. The air changed. Conversation turned to whispers. Eyes became weapons. Trust dissolved. We'll need to speak to you all individually, Harris continued. Preferably in the study. There's a fireplace. We won't freeze. Great, Claudia muttered. A cozy little interrogation. Jack gave a joyless laugh. Just like one of Tamsin's stories. Except the twist is, we're all suspects. They submitted to questioning one by one. Each interview lasted long enough to plant new seeds of doubt. Who saw her last? When? Did she seem paranoid? Unstable? Secretive? Lena left the study pale and pinched. Claudia came out angry. Marcus refused to speak. Jack seemed different. Quiet. Like something inside him was breaking off in chunks. Harris scribbled notes in silence, never confirming, never denying. He didn't need to. The retreat was doing the damage for him. Outside, the storm showed no sign of relenting. The mansion creaked under its weight as though the past was clawing through the rafters. I feel like I'm watching myself from outside my body, Lena whispered to Claudia as they huddled by the fire. Like I'm trapped inside someone else's book. Claudia didn't answer. She just stared at the flames, watching them shudder. In the corner, one of the officers emerged from Tamsin's bedroom with a plastic evidence bag. Inside was a scrap of paper, one of the torn manuscript pages. On it, scrawled in red ink, "The ending is already written. It just hasn't happened yet." No one spoke. The house had begun to whisper in its own way, through creaking floors, through shifting shadows, through stories half told and never finished. Chapter 6. An Unofficial Investigation. The study door clicked shut behind the last of them. Detective Harris had withdrawn to the den with a thick file of interview notes, and the officers were reviewing surveillance footage frame by frame. Claudia leaned forward, her voice sharp in the dim glow of the library's standing lamp. "I don't trust him. He's professional, sure, but he's not invested." "They'll follow procedure," Marcus said. "Box ticking, interviews, chain of evidence, but that won't find her." "We need to keep digging," Lena whispered, eyes wide and restless. "Tamsin would. She always said, truth lives in the margins." Jack paced near the bay windows, silhouetted against the snow-laced glass. "If we screw with their investigation, we risk being arrested." "Oh, so now you care about the rules?" Claudia shot back, standing. "Where was that caution when you argued against calling the cops?" "I didn't want to escalate," Jack muttered. "I still don't." The room cracked with silence. They were unraveling. The tight-knit circle of writers once bonded by creativity, now frayed by suspicion and fear. "Then we do it carefully," Lena said. "We look for things the police wouldn't notice, storylines, themes." Tamsin buried meaning in everything she did. Marcus glanced toward the hallway. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking we split up. Claudia and I will go through her emails and digital backups. Jack, you're her longest friend here. Maybe you'll recognize what's missing in her room. Marcus, you comb through the photos again. Look for symbols, recurring elements, anything." Claudia arched an eyebrow. "So we're doing a plot analysis of her real-life disappearance?" Lena shrugged. "We're writers. It's what we know." Outside the library, the house seemed to settle again, groaning in its beams, whispering through vents. If it could speak, it would beg them to stop. But they couldn't. Tamsin had created stories where characters were punished for knowing too much. Now her absence had become one of those stories. And they were in it, line by line. "We owe her," Lena whispered, opening the first of Tamsin's email archives. "If she's out there scared, we owe her more than waiting." And so the writers wrote themselves into the investigation, not as observers, but as participants in something far darker than fiction. Chapter 7. Shadows in the Frame. The flicker of the laptop screen was the only light in the guest parlor, casting pale flashes across Marcus's face. His eyes were bloodshot from staring too long. He scrolled back through the flash drive's folder, titled Final. The images hadn't changed, but he had. Lena crouched beside him with a steaming mug of coffee, hands trembling from too little sleep and too many cigarettes. "Found anything?" Marcus didn't look at her. He clicked one image open. "Here, I keep coming back to this." The photo was the same one they'd glimpsed earlier, the bloodied hand. But now Marcus zoomed in, inch by inch, pulling the darkness into view. "There," he whispered. "Oh my God." In the upper corner of the photograph, where the image blurred into shadow, a silhouette leaned against the doorframe. Just the faintest line, a tilt of the shoulder, the faint brim of a hat. "A fedora?" Lena breathed. Marcus nodded slowly. "It's there. You can see the dip in the crown, tilted forward like it's hiding the face. That means someone was there when the photo was taken." The silence around them thickened. Even the fire in the hearth popped and died. "So this wasn't taken by Tamsin." "Or it was," Marcus replied, "and someone else was in the room, watching." Claudia entered the room mid-conversation, catching the image on screen. She stopped short. "What the fuck is that?" "We think someone else was in the room when this photo was taken," Lena explained, eyes still locked on the figure. "That's not just creepy, that's a lead," Claudia snapped. "Can you enhance it?" "This isn't CSI," Marcus said. "All we can do is observe and ask. Who at this retreat owns a fucking fedora?" "That's not a popular accessory," Claudia muttered. "Not unless you're a hipster or a noir detective with a god complex." Lena stood abruptly. "The bear," she said. "When we arrived, there was a hat, sitting on the taxidermy bear in the entryway. It was a fedora, just like this." "Shit," Marcus whispered. "Someone's leaving breadcrumbs." Jack entered then, slow and silent, sensing the tension. His eyes flicked to the screen, then to Lena, then away. "You remember the hat on the bear, right, Jack?" Claudia asked, her voice flat and probing. "Barely," he said. "I didn't really notice. No one else thought to put it there. You were the first one inside." Jack's jaw clenched. The shadows seemed to thicken around him like the room exhaled mistrust. "I didn't touch the hat, but no one believed him. Not fully, not anymore." Chapter 8. Fedora Clues. The hat became a symbol, innocent in design, but loaded now with suspicion, tension, and the quiet madness of people who had seen too much and still knew too little. Claudia stared at the grainy photo on the laptop. "It's definitely a fedora. You can see the dip in the brim. It's not a beanie, not a trilby. It's deliberate." "Someone had to be in the room," Marcus said, eyes darting to the hallway. "Either Tamsin took that photo with someone else present, or someone took it of her, after, or before. Either way, they wore that hat." Lena stepped back from the laptop like it had bitten her. "We've been walking around this place with a killer," Jack scoffed. "Jumping to conclusions now? Over a hat? We don't even know when the photo was taken." "You're awfully dismissive for someone who can't even remember a fucking hat on a bear," Claudia snapped. "That image wasn't just creepy, it was staged, like someone wanted us to find it." Jack flinched. "Not obviously, but enough." Enough for Lena to notice. "You came in first," she said softly. "You had time." "What? You think I planted it?" Jack laughed, but there was no humor. "Why the hell would I do that?" "To mislead us. To make this look like fiction. Something twisted, like one of Tamsin's endings." "I didn't kill her, Lena. Jesus Christ. No one said you did." But in that moment, he sounded like a man who'd rehearsed the denial one too many times. Claudia turned away, her hands trembling now with something between fury and grief. "We need to get access to the retreat's surveillance archive, not just the current feed. Historical. Everything." "I know someone who might help," Marcus said. "One of the staff, Emma, she's in charge of IT. Discreet. She'll do it if I ask right." "Just make sure she doesn't alert Harris," Lena warned. "I don't want him shutting this down before we've seen what's been buried." No one asked what they'd do if the footage showed what they feared. The truth was too close now, sharp enough to cut. The fedora was just a hat. But here in this house, under this storm, it had become a crown. And someone in their midst was wearing it. Chapter 9. Bear Clues and Growing Tensions. The house had grown colder overnight, not from weather, from silence, the kind of silence that prickled against the spine, where every whisper echoed louder than footsteps. "Wait," Lena said suddenly. "When we walked in the first night, the bear in the main hall, it had the fedora on its head, perched there, smug as hell." Claudia's eyes narrowed. "You're right. That's when everything started to feel off." Marcus stood. "That moment might be on video. If we check the footage from just before we arrived, maybe even 20 minutes prior, we could catch whoever put it there." Lena nodded, already moving. "We find that clip. We find the timeline. We narrow the list." "I'll talk to Emma," Marcus said. "Carefully. If she asks too many questions, I'll lie." "Good," Claudia muttered, "because Jack's no longer my first pick." Jack stood in the corner, arms folded, unmoving. His eyes were hard to read, too quiet, too still. "You want to accuse me? Just say it, Claudia. I'm not hiding. I don't need to accuse. I just need to keep watching." They broke off without another word. The investigation now had its own pulse, its own hunger, and suspicion fed it. Marcus returned an hour later with a USB drive in his hand and fresh snow on his shoulders. He didn't speak. He just plugged the drive into the laptop and pulled up the footage. "Fast forward to 30 minutes before we arrived," Lena said. Frames blurred, shadows flickered. A quiet, empty hallway. A closed front door. Then, movement. "There," Claudia whispered. A figure entered frame from the right. The footage was grainy. The lighting poor, but the silhouette was unmistakably female. The arm was slender, the sleeves salmon-colored. She walks up to the bear and places the hat. "That's not Jack," Marcus said, eyes wide. "That's a woman." "Do we know anyone here wearing salmon sleeves?" Lena asked. Claudia sat back, blinking. "The waitstaff. One of them had a tunic that color." Lena's voice was faint. "Jasmine." The room pulsed with a new, electric tension. Not relief, not clarity, but worse. "She and Tamsin were close, weren't they?" Claudia asked. "Always quiet, always in the background." "If she's involved," Marcus began, then stopped. "We need to tread carefully." The camera didn't lie. Someone who wasn't a guest, who wasn't supposed to be part of the story, had just walked into it, wearing a fedora, leaving a breadcrumb, and disappearing. Chapter 10. Unseen Motions. The footage played in silence, the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway, the only thing grounding them in time. Frame by frame, they watched the woman in the salmon tunic slip into view, place the fedora on the stuffed bear, and retreat into shadow. Swift, silent, like a ghost rehearsed. She knew there were cameras, Lena said. She knew, and she didn't care. Or she wanted to be seen, Marcus replied. Like bait, a game. Claudia shook her head. Or maybe she thought she was invisible to us. The screen flickered as the next segment loaded. More empty corridors, shadows moving behind frosted windows, the soft shimmer of falling snow. Wait, there, Lena pointed again. Same arm, same sleeve, outside the kitchen door. Pause it, Claudia said. Zoom in. Is she holding something? Marcus froze the frame. It wasn't clear, but the shape was familiar, long, narrow, slightly curved. A page, he said. A single sheet. Looks like paper from the manuscript. She planted that hat. She scattered the pages. She staged the chaos. Then she knew we'd find the flash drive, Lena whispered. They all sat back at once, the implications sinking in like ice water in the lungs. We've been dancing in someone else's outline, Claudia said. Someone's writing this. We're just following the structure. I don't think we were meant to survive the story, Marcus muttered. The words hung in the air like smoke. Where's Jack? Lena asked suddenly. They looked around. The parlor was empty, but for them, the hallway dark. Jack was gone. He left during the footage, Claudia said. Slipped out. I didn't even. Do we go after him? Lena asked. No, Marcus replied. Let's not split up. Not now. The house seemed to agree. Every board creaked. Every gust outside groaned like lungs expelling secrets. What if this is what Tamsin wanted? Lena asked. Not the manuscript, not the retreat, just this, the unraveling. Then she's more dangerous than we ever knew, Claudia replied. Chapter 11. Unmasking and Mending. The parlor had emptied of sound. Only the fire crackled, weakly, as if afraid to interrupt. No one spoke for a long time. The footage was paused, the fedora-wearing figure still staring out from the grainy image like a phantom mid-reveal. We need to narrow this down, Claudia said, finally breaking the silence. There were only so many women on the staff that night. Only so many who wore anything even close to salmon. Marcus rewound the frame. Let's look again. The sleeve. Right there. See the cuff? That material. It's linen. Stiff. Uniform. Lena leaned closer. Jasmine, she was wearing a tunic like that. I thought it was coral. But in this light, salmon makes more sense. She was also absent during the tea, Claudia added. She served, then disappeared. She always disappears, Lena whispered. She floats around like she doesn't belong anywhere. A new tension gathered in the room. Not fear, not yet, but certainty. The kind that came with recognizing a shadow from a recurring dream. Maybe she's not involved, Marcus offered. Maybe she saw something, tried to warn Tamsin, or even tried to protect her. Or maybe she was closer to Tamsin than anyone, Claudia said. Close enough to hate her. The silence that followed that sentence felt like something cracked. Something personal, something painful. We need to fix this first, Lena murmured. Jack. They'd turned on him, isolated him, and now he'd vanished into the house like a chapter torn out and thrown into the fire. I'll go to him, Lena said. We need each other, whether we trust him or not. I'll come with you, Marcus offered, but let you talk. The house felt different now, not threatening, just exhausted, like a body post-seizure, twitching in dreams. They found Jack in the reading room. A single lamp burned beside him. He sat cross-legged in the leather chair, thumbing absently through a book he wasn't reading. Hey, Lena said. He didn't look up. You think I did it? I think we're scared, she replied, and scared people lash out. I loved her, he said, barely audible. Not like you think. Not romantically, but deeply. She saved me from myself once. I owed her. We know. That's why we need you with us. The book slipped from his hand. He exhaled. We have a lead, Lena said. Jasmine? The quiet one? Yes, Lena whispered. The quiet ones always hold the loudest truths. Chapter 12, Clues and Cross-References. Back in the library, they laid everything out. Notebooks, manuscript fragments, screenshots, timelines. The air smelled of ink and ash, old wood, spilt wine, burnt ends of memory. Jack took over the long wooden table and began mapping their findings like a crime novelist mid-outline. Each note was meticulous, cross-referenced, labeled. Claudia hovered over his shoulder, arms folded. "So this is your process?" "No," Jack replied. "This is desperation dressed as logic." The others stood in a semicircle, eyeing the wall of connected clues like worshippers at a shrine made of doubt. Lena pointed at the photo of the shadow in the fedora. "We tie the hat to the bear to Jasmine, Jasmine to the manuscript. It all loops." "And we know from the footage she was near the kitchen," Claudia said. "That's close to Tamsin's room, the night she disappeared." "There's more," Marcus added. "She didn't punch out on the staff roster. I checked. Everyone else signed off. She didn't." A silence bloomed in the room. Not surprise, recognition. The kind that felt like it had always been there, waiting to surface. "I remembered something else," Lena said. "She was crying. The day before Tamsin vanished, in the hallway near the linen closet. I thought maybe she'd been reprimanded." "But maybe she knew," Claudia said. "Maybe it wasn't grief, it was guilt." The group leaned in as Jack finished drawing one last connection with a red marker. Jasmine circled in thick loops, connected to every major clue. "If she's the key," Marcus said, "then we have two options, talk to her or catch her off guard." "We talk," Lena replied, "but we don't confront, not yet. She's defensive, she'll shut down." "Then we find a way in," Claudia said, "something she won't see coming." They stood there a long moment, staring at the red circle around Jasmine's name. It pulsed now in their minds, like a wound, like a target. "She knows something," Lena whispered, "and I think she's scared." Outside, the snow fell in sheets, soft as silence, heavy as truth. Chapter 13, Tea and Whispers. The plan came together over Claudia's scribbled notes and Lena's strained patience. It wasn't bold, it wasn't cruel, it was clever and subtle, exactly what Jasmine wouldn't expect. "A tea," Lena said. "We host a casual gathering. No pressure, just warmth, gratitude, and open ears." "She won't talk under a spotlight," Marcus added, "but if we build trust, let her think we're not watching." "She'll relax," Claudia finished, "and maybe let something slip." By midday, the dining room was transformed. Mismatched teacups gleamed on the tablecloth. Pastries, scones, almond slices, thin cucumber sandwiches rested on cracked porcelain plates. The kettle hissed like something alive. Claudia poured the first cups herself. Jasmine arrived late, hesitant at the threshold, her hands scrubbed raw, sleeves still damp from washing. "We wanted to thank the staff," Lena said, with a disarming smile. "You've been incredible, despite the chaos." Jasmine nodded, murmured a quiet "thanks," and took a seat near the window, her eyes never still. They fanned out around her, careful not to crowd. Marcus sat across, telling stories about his failed second novel. Claudia leaned in to laugh too loudly at jokes. Jack stayed quiet, observant, sipping tea, with the patience of someone watching a trap tighten. "I always wondered what brought people to work at a place like this," Lena said casually. "Writers, artists, and then the quiet ones, the backbone of it all." Jasmine shrugged. "I like the quiet. It's simple." "And Tamsin?" Claudia asked, eyes dancing. "Wasn't she the opposite of quiet?" "She was kind to me," Jasmine replied. There it was, a hitch, a fault line under the words. The smile didn't reach her eyes. Her fingers clenched the cup too tight. "She was brilliant," Marcus said. "Intense, though. I remember once she rewrote an entire manuscript over a single bad review." Lena smiled gently. "I always wondered if she felt safe here. You know, with people who wanted something from her." "She had secrets," Jasmine said quietly, "but not the kind anyone could protect her from." "What kind of secrets?" Lena asked, so gently it almost didn't register. "I need to get back to the kitchen." As Jasmine replied, she stood quickly, almost knocking over the sugar bowl. Then she was gone, just a whisper of sleeves down the hall. "She knows," Claudia said flatly. "She's drowning in it." "And if we don't get to the bottom of it soon," Marcus muttered, "we might drown too." Chapter 14, Silent Revelations. The teacups sat abandoned on the table, the pastries untouched, their edges curling with dryness. No one reached for seconds. The ritual had ended, and all that remained was the echo of things unspoken. Claudia stood by the window, watching the snow fall sideways in sheets, as if gravity itself had shifted. "She cracked," Marcus said. "Did you see her hands? The way she held the cup?" Lena folded her arms. "She's on the edge. If we press harder, she'll shut down or run. But if we wait, she might disappear just like Tamsin," Claudia finished. The fire hissed, one log collapsing into glowing fragments. It was dusk when Jasmine returned. She came to Lena quietly, in the hallway outside the library. Her voice was soft, the words slow, like a confession rehearsed 1,000 times but never once spoken. She didn't want anyone to know, not even her agent, not her fans, not the others at the retreat. Lena kept her eyes on Jasmine's trembling fingers. "Know what?" "We were lovers," Jasmine whispered, "Tamsin and I." The silence that followed that revelation was absolute. Even the wind outside seemed to pause to listen. "It started last year," Jasmine continued. "She was terrified, not of the love, of the world knowing. She said it would change everything, her brand, her readership, her control." Lena placed a hand on Jasmine's arm. "Did anyone else know?" "I think someone found out," she whispered, right before she vanished. That sentence landed like a coffin lid shutting. "Who?" Lena asked. "Who found out?" "I don't know," Jasmine said. "But after we fought, I heard voices. Outside the study, a man, someone angry, he said she was hiding behind fictions, and then she was gone." Lena's mind spun, the photograph, the silhouette, the missing page, the bloodied hand. "You need to tell the police," she said. "I can't," Jasmine breathed. "You don't understand. They'll turn it into something ugly. They always do." Lena understood, and she also knew that silence now could cost lives. "Then we'll protect you," Lena said. "But we're not letting this end in silence." Chapter 15. Probing Shadows. The retreat no longer felt like a sanctuary. It felt like a trap made of velvet and silence. Doors that opened too quietly, halls too long, mirrors that reflected nothing helpful. The kind of place where secrets didn't hide. They watched. "We have to handle this delicately," Lena said, standing with the others around the library table. "Jasmine's not the threat, but she's standing on a bridge made of lies, and any wrong move will send her falling through." "She admitted to the relationship," Marcus said. "That's motive in the eyes of the police. Jealousy, shame, maybe even blackmail." "She's terrified," Claudia snapped. "Don't you recognize guilt from grief? Jasmine's holding on by a thread." "But if someone else knew," Lena said, voice lowering, "we need to find out who. Someone threatened her. Someone made her feel like her love was something shameful. That person may be the one who made her vanish." The room pulsed with uncertainty. Outside, the snow had stopped, but the sky remained bruised and low, as if the storm had simply gone quiet to listen. "What about Jack?" Marcus asked. "He's still keeping distance. He hasn't asked about Jasmine's confession. That's not like him." Claudia exhaled. "He loved Tamsin in his own way. Maybe he's just processing." The door creaked. They all turned. Jack stood in the frame. "You're talking about me." "No," Lena lied. "We're talking about what comes next. You think I'm hiding something. We think everyone's hiding something." Jack stepped inside, eyes scanning the map of clues on the wall. His lips twitched, not into a smile, into something darker. "You don't know her," he said. "Not really. She used people. She curated her mystery. You were all pawns in her process." "She loved Jasmine," Lena said sharply. "She loved stories. Tragedy sells. You ever consider she staged this? Every scene?" That silence wasn't from shock. It was from recognition. That maybe, just maybe, they had underestimated Tamsin's willingness to orchestrate pain. "You think she disappeared herself," Claudia said, "for the story." "I think she was writing until the very end." They stared at the wall of evidence. The red circles, the images, the handwritten line. "The ending is already written. It just hasn't happened yet." She meant it. And somewhere in the house someone was still turning the pages. Chapter 16. Building Bridges. The mansion exhaled a stillness that felt earned, not gifted. For a moment, no one shouted, no new horrors emerged from a laptop screen. The fire burned low. The wind had dropped, and Lena took her chance. She found Jasmine in the utility room, wiping down a row of copper kettles, her movements sharp and repetitive, ritual, not necessity. "Can I help?" Lena asked gently, stepping in and closing the door behind her. Jasmine's hand jerked. She knocked over a tin of loose-leaf tea. "You shouldn't be here." "I'm not here for answers," Lena said. "I'm here for you." Jasmine froze. The cloth in her hand sagged like a flag in retreat. Her shoulders dropped. "You don't have to speak, but you deserve to be seen. Not as a suspect, not as a secret, as you." "I don't know who I am anymore," Jasmine whispered. "Tamsin made me feel real, like I mattered, but only in the dark." "She loved you," Lena said, "even if she was afraid." "Love that hides is not the kind that saves," Jasmine replied. She begged me not to tell, said it would destroy everything she built. Lena stepped closer until their reflections met in the tarnished window. You matter more than her audience, more than her brand. She hid love like it was shame. That's not your weight to carry. I wanted to tell someone, Jasmine said, but it felt like betraying her. And now she's gone, and I'm still protecting her like some obedient ghost. You're not a ghost, Lena said. You're a survivor. Jasmine finally met her eyes, and something passed between them. Recognition, grief, solidarity, and something that might have been longing. Help us find her, Lena whispered. Not the myth, not the writer, the woman who held your hand in the dark. Jasmine nodded once. Then you'll need to see the journal, the real one. Has the one she never meant to share. Lena felt the chill before the door even opened. Somewhere in the house, a truth was waiting, written by candlelight in a hand that feared exposure. The next chapter wasn't fiction. Chapter 17, Unveiled Secrets. The journal was wrapped in a silk scarf, soft and frayed at the edges, the color of old blood. Jasmine retrieved it from beneath a floorboard in the pantry, hidden under a false plank no one would notice unless they were searching for secrets. She called it the real story, Jasmine said. She started it 6 months ago. She wrote only at night, only in ink, no backups, no edits. The others gathered in the study, the journal resting in Lena's hands like a holy relic. Its pages were thick and uneven, stained with candle wax, wine rings, and, on one edge, what looked like blood. No one knows me. They know the shadows I paint, but not the bruises I hide. I fell in love with Jasmine. I let her touch the place in me I never gave to readers, but now I feel the story pulling tight around me like a noose disguised as legacy. Claudia closed her eyes. Jesus. She was spiraling, Marcus said. These aren't just journal entries, these are confessions. Lena flipped further. Each paragraph was raw, fractured, some crossed out, others written in trembling lines that leaned sideways. He knows, the man in the fedora. I saw him outside my window. I don't know if he wants to expose me or kill the story before it's finished. She saw him, Lena said. It wasn't paranoia. She documented it. Someone was watching her, Claudia said. Someone she feared. They read on. I made Jasmine promise to destroy this if anything happened to me, but I know she won't. She's not made for ashes. She's made for truth. Jasmine stood in the doorway, her face pale, her hands clenched. I didn't know she wrote that, she whispered. She never showed me. Jack stepped forward, slower than the others, eyes locked on the open book. Did she mention anyone by name? He asked. Lena scanned the next page. No, just sometimes I wonder if Jack sees me as I really am, or just the ghost he writes through. Jack's jaw tensed. She wrote about me? And suddenly, everything tilted. You knew she was afraid, as Claudia said slowly, didn't you? She confided in me. That's all. But in the flicker of candlelight, his shadow looked very much like the one in the photo. Chapter 18, Gossip and Motives. The journal sat open on the center table like a crime scene, the ink bleeding truths that no one had asked for, but everyone feared. Tamsin hadn't just written about her fears. She had named them, wrapped them in metaphor, and placed them in the laps of her closest allies. She called you a ghost, Claudia said to Jack. That's not affection. That's warning. You don't know what we had, Jack snapped. You think a few sentences written in a breakdown prove guilt? You have no idea what type she meant. She said she was scared of being seen, Lena murmured, scared of being known, and yet you claim to have known her best? The air had changed. The storm had returned, not outside, but within. You want to pin this on me because it's easy, Jack growled. Because I don't weep like Jasmine, or preach like Claudia, or play detective like Marcus, but I was the one who stayed loyal. You were also the one who tried to discredit her fears, Claudia said. And you've been fighting us every time we got close to the truth. Maybe I wanted to preserve what little dignity she had left. Lena broke away, moved to the window. Her breath fogged the glass. Below, in the courtyard, a single light flickered in the maintenance shed. No one should have been out there. We're not alone, she said. Someone's in the shed. Chairs scraped, coats thrown on, flashlights grabbed. No one said who would lead, but all of them moved at once, adrenaline welding them into a single paranoid force. The snow was deeper than before, even untouched. Untouched except for one set of boot prints, small, narrow. Jasmine's. What is she doing out here? They reached the shed. The door creaked open on a groan that sounded like a gasp. Inside was darkness, then Jasmine, standing still, holding a single envelope. "I found it behind the furnace," she said. "It was hidden, under tools. It's addressed to me, but it's unsigned." The envelope shook in her hands. Claudia took it gently, slid it open with a nail file. "You were never supposed to find this, but if you do, you need to run. They know. They always knew. They'll turn you into a villain just like they turned me into a commodity." Tamsin, she thought someone was coming for her, Lena said. She knew she'd be erased. And whoever she meant by they were still watching. Chapter 19. Hidden Ledger. The envelope changed everything. Not just the words inside, but the fact that it had been hidden, that it wasn't meant to be found, that it was buried beneath rusted tools and ash, as if whoever hid it knew exactly what it meant. "If she thought they were coming for her," Claudia said, "we need to figure out who they are. No more metaphors, no more journal riddles." "Then we follow the money," Marcus said. "Always the money." They returned to the library, moving like people who suddenly knew there was a bomb under the floorboards. Jasmine sat trembling on the edge of the fireplace hearth, fingers fidgeting with her sleeves. "Did she ever talk about payments?" Lena asked her. "Anything off the books? Hidden?" "She used to pay me cash," Jasmine whispered. "Never from the retreat payroll, always from a black leather folder, locked drawer in her bedroom." The group moved without speaking. Up the stairs, into Tamsin's room. The drawer was locked, brass, old, but no match for Marcus's screwdriver in desperation. Inside was a leather-bound ledger, not a journal, a record. Each entry was numbered and dated, the handwriting precise. $2,000, J, week 14, silence maintained. $2,000, week 15, editor called again, advised silence. She was paying her to keep quiet, Marcus murmured. Week by week. $4,000, week 19, J threatened to tell Claudia. Doubled amount. Claudia recoiled like she'd been slapped. "She thought I'd turn on her?" The entries continued, rising numbers, escalating paranoia, not just to Jasmine. Others, initials, some vague, some unmistakable. She was buying silence from more than one person. This was her safety net, Jack said, or her noose. And then, final entry. $6,500, week 26. Jay saw him in the corridor. Fedora, blackmail imminent, plan fallback. "She knew the collapse was coming," Lena whispered. "She didn't trust me," Jasmine said, voice breaking. "She thought I'd sell her out." "No," Lena said. "She thought someone was going to force you to." The money, the fear, the disappearing woman. It wasn't about art anymore. It was about control. And the cost of silence. Chapter 20. The Unfinished Tale. The ledger lay open on the table like a wound, its numbers bleeding into motive, its handwriting echoing louder than any scream. Each entry a hush payment, each line a confession. Tamsin never intended to speak aloud. She wasn't paranoid, Lena said. She was cornered, blackmailed, afraid, and she tried to build her safety out of silence. "And that silence killed her," Marcus murmured. The room had darkened as the sun fell behind the mountain. The only light came from the fire and the laptop screen, still paused on the image of the bloodied hand. "What if this wasn't just about being found out?" Claudia asked. "What if it was about legacy, about controlling how she'd be remembered?" "She always said endings mattered more than anything," Lena whispered. "She used to say a bad ending ruined everything that came before." Jasmine sat apart now, cross-legged on the rug, journal in her lap, reading each page like it was Tamsin's pulse. "She didn't write an ending," Jasmine said. "What?" "The journal. It stops mid-sentence. Look." She turned the page. "If this is my final act, then let it be. That's it, nothing else. No flourish, no twist, just silence." The unfinished sentence settled in their minds like a final breath held too long. Tamsin Blackwell, queen of plotted perfection, had left her story incomplete. "She didn't write the ending," Lena repeated, "because she didn't know how it would end. She was waiting for something or someone." The idea felt sacred, tragic, like they'd walked into a symphony and found the conductor missing, leaving them with only the crescendo. "We're the ending." "No," Lena said, "we're the continuation." The wind picked up again, the storm returning, or maybe it had never left, just waited, like Tamsin, for the moment of climax. If someone silenced her, Lena said, then we owe her more than discovery. We owe her justice. And somewhere in the silence of that retreat, a page had yet to be written, one with blood in the margins and truth at the spine. Final chapter. The manuscript's end. The retreat was silent again. Not peaceful. Expectant. Like the walls knew the last act was beginning and were bracing for the truth to finally tear through. Lena returned to Tamsin's bedroom one final time. She moved without sound, as if anything louder than breath might shatter what remained of the story. Jasmine followed, the journal in her arms like a lifeline. Claudia and Marcus brought the ledger and the flash drive. Jack followed last, unreadable. Lena opened the wardrobe. There, tucked inside a shoebox beneath a fur-lined coat, was a second drive, unlabeled, cold in her hand. She kept another. The laptop booted slowly. The file loaded. A video, time-stamped 3 days before Tamsin vanished. Tamsin appeared on screen, pale, tired, her voice hoarse. "If you're watching this, I've already gone. Not dead, hopefully. Just gone. Removed. I left the retreat to escape a choice I wasn't strong enough to make. I loved Jasmine, and I feared her. Not because of her, but because she made me honest. I spent my life building walls made of plot twists. She tore them down. But someone else found out, someone who said they'd control the story if I didn't. I thought I could outright them, but I can't. Not this time. So here's the ending. I'm not vanishing for the readers. I'm vanishing for me. I deserve peace, and if you're watching this, you deserve the truth. Tell Jasmine I loved her, even in fear, especially in fear." The screen faded to black. Jasmine turned away. Her hand trembled. "She ran," she whispered. "She wasn't murdered. She ran." "She staged everything," Marcus murmured. "The blood, the journal, the hand in the photo. It was all her," Claudia said. "Even the figure in the hat. She wanted us to chase her, to write the ending she couldn't." Lena opened the final page of the journal again. "If this is my final act, then let it be unfinished. Let them write it. Let them choose how it ends, because I can't." They stood in silence. Each of them now a part of the story. Not readers, not spectators. Characters. "She's out there," Lena said. "Maybe broken, maybe healing, but alive." Outside, the snow had stopped. The air was still. Somewhere in the dark between mountains, Tamsin Blackwell had written herself into legend and vanished. But not forgotten. Not by those who loved her. Not by those who finished her manuscript. The end. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, ring the bell, and tell your friends about my listening library on YouTube.